World Network. And today's topic is freedom. And I think it'll be a fun conversation to be looking at the freedom between our ears, essentially. But before we get started, let's take a couple minutes to just get settled in and present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen just flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing every cell, every organ, bringing vital life energy. And as you exhale, exhale any stress, any fatigue, tension, negativity. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light just coursing through every molecule, every electron, lighting up all your cells, enlightening and enlivening from the inside out. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining negativity, fatigue, toxicity, stress. And now let's just gently press our palms together really softly. Rub your fingers against your palms and feel the delicious sensation. Put your attention on your palms and feel that tickling and tingling and deliciousness. And bring yourselves present right here, right now. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Irma. So good to have you here. And so good to have everybody else who's joining us today. It's Friday. It's Friday, and I thought that freedom would be a great conversation because if we look at how we define freedom, uh, we get to maybe expand our idea of what freedom means. Happy Friday to you, Rosalind. Welcome. It's great to have you here. So um, I was thinking about freedom and the way that we often, hello, Dorothy. Wow. Hello, old friend. It's great to have you here. Welcome, welcome. We're talking about freedom today and how we oppress ourselves with trauma, with certain beliefs, with certain ideas of how the world is. And I just thought it would be interesting to play with the idea of true freedom. Like, what would it be to be free of those free of the influence or the traumatic influence of the past, for example. What would it be to be completely free? Would we be free of our identity? What would that look like? What does it mean to be free to just be responsive to the moment? My thinking is that being completely present to the moment is the place where true freedom resides. And that, what are the implications of that? I'm imagining that it would be being free of our attachment to our beliefs. Good morning, Dennis. Welcome. Great to have you here. Um, that that if we are able to hold our perspectives with an open hand, hold our beliefs, for example, with an open hand, rather than our beliefs holding us, rather than being at the effect of our beliefs, for example, or being at the effect of the trauma of our past. Being at the effect of our physical condition, to be free of that, to be present, and to be holding that with open hand, in other words, and rather than it holding us, for us to be able to have those elements of being, but not identify with them. So Rosalind says we could energetically detach and free ourselves of attachments and beliefs that don't serve our higher selves. Exactly. And I'm wondering if ultimately, and this is a thought exercise, I'm wondering if our beliefs, if any of our beliefs serve our highest selves. You know, like who would we be without our beliefs? And I think this is it's an interesting question because we start talking about identity, and that maybe our identities are our ultimate master, you know, our ultimate um, well, master, you know, that our identities dominate us rather than us choosing or holding this idea of ourselves again with open hand, as meaning that it's not immutable, it's something that is totally flexible. If we were to be able to use our identity as a tool rather than being at the effect of it. So energetically detaching and freeing ourselves, what would there be, what would be there if we are not who we believe ourselves to be? So we were talking the other day about lucid dreaming and about kind of moving into a realm of healing where we can access the commonly believed to be impossible. You know, we were talking about Joe Dispenza, and good morning, Robert. Welcome. Great to have you here. We're talking about freedom today. And the freedom that we're talking about is kind of an existential freedom to be in a state where we are not at the effect of our experience, and meaning we're not being reactive, um, we're not living out past traumas and taking it into our present and forward into our future. And what does that look like? I mean, there's because for me, freedom is the ultimate state, and I don't have a clear notion of the beingness of that. In that I have an idea about it, but I don't know what the actual experience of that freedom might be. I can tell you that I had the greatest experience of freedom that I ever had was when I went skydiving. And before we got in the plane, we had sort of an instruction session. I was pinioned to somebody who was an experienced skydiver. So there were anchors on my shoulders and anchors on my hips that tethered me to him. And what we were to do is we actually climbed out on the wing of the plane, holding on to the wing. There was a place to sort of walk out and hold on to the wing and stand out there. And then what we were to do is to let go and fall backwards. And and then I guess we flipped around. I don't even remember as I'm explaining it to you. And I was looking down at the earth, and it was moving toward me very, very quickly. And I realized that there was nothing I could do. I didn't know if I was going to live or if I was going to die. And I couldn't do anything about it. Good morning, Suzanne. Welcome, welcome. We're talking about freedom. So in that moment, I felt freer than I've ever felt in my life. It was the most exhilarating thing I've ever done. And I've walked on red hot coals and broken boards and jumped from 50-foot high pole with a a tether line, a safety line. But I've done a bunch of different crazy things, but this was the most freeing thing I ever did. And it was because I let go of trying to control my life, I guess. I realized there was nothing I could do, that I was going to live or I was going to die, and there was nothing I could do about it. And maybe that sounds terrifying. I don't know. For me, it was the most exhilarating and freeing thing I ever experienced. So I wonder, why was it free? Because I truly let go of control. I guess we don't realize how much of our attention is on staying alive, all this energy that we have towards staying alive. But letting that go was remarkable in that moment. There was a surrender or an acceptance of just things are going to be as they're going to be. And that was amazing. So Rosalind says, if someone hurts us, or if we're in a situation we have no control, freedom is having inner peace and not looking for external circumstances to make ourselves happy. So if we create our own beliefs, then we can detach from the ones that we can let go of. I agree with you 100%, Rosalind, that freedom is not being reliant upon external circumstances for our well-being. That and we've talked about this before, but even is it? I'm trying to remember his first name, Frankel, um, who was in a concentration camp and was able to find a place of freedom within himself. Regardless of our circumstances, even if we were incarcerated, for example, we can find that state of being free within ourselves. Viktor Frankl, thank you. I know I can always count on you, Dido. Thank you so much for that, Viktor Frankl. Um, so we can, by our state of mind, by the way that we choose to think, that by the stories we tell ourselves. We always talk about the stories that we tell ourselves here, because why? That's the foundation of our reality in so many ways, maybe in every way. We have whatever experience we have, and then we have the stories that we tell ourselves around and tell the world around those experiences. And it brings to mind another story that I'm sure I've shared with you about the two kids in different rooms. One kid is in a room filled with toys, and he's miserable because he can't find the one toy that he really wants. So he's unhappy with all these other toys. And the other child is in a room filled with horse manure, and he's got a shovel, and he's digging away, and he's happy as can be. And his attitude is, well, if there's wherever there's so much manure, there's got to be a horse or a pony somewhere. And so what are the stories we tell ourselves? And maybe the ultimate freedom is being free from attachment to all of what is, to be able to be flowing with life as it expresses itself to us and through us. Suzanne says that's exactly what a Course in Miracles teaches. I'm doing it with our book club. Wow, that's ambitious for a book club. Wow, good for you. That's a big undertaking, a long-term undertaking. It's not a book a month kind of thing, for sure. Robert says for survival. I guess the universe has our backs in one way or another. The universe has a way to provide us with the basic needs in order to survive. I believe that in order to be free, we have to go past the root chakra, which is related to survival needs, and reach higher levels of perception. So interesting that you bring up the root chakra, Robert, because in the work that I do, the reference that I use for the root chakra is survival, like literal physical survival, but also survival of identity and identity. You know, like that is a foundation of our being in our belief. So it's really, really interesting because most of the sessions that I do with people are based in the root chakra. Occasionally, it switches up to the heart and very rarely one of the other chakras, but generally it's the root chakra. And so identity, survival, and survival of identity. And it's very, very interesting that our very identities are a fabrication. You know, who we believe ourselves to be, who we think we know ourselves to be. It's fabrication. So if we enter one of these meditations, for instance, that like the Joe Dispenza meditation, one of the things he says we are gods in the flesh. When we access these different states of being, these different states of consciousness, these different states of awareness, then we actually have the capacity to be transcending the limitations that we believe are scientific, actual, physical, real world limitations, real world with quotes around it. You know, we talk about reality as if it's something that we actually can define. You know, like it's not reality to think that you can instantaneously heal a broken bone. Well, people have. You know, it's not reality to believe that you can grow back your damaged liver, for example, or that you can have spontaneous remission from stage 4 cancer. But all of these things have been done. Even though we tend to have a belief around what reality is, and it doesn't usually encompass those things. So Robert says, I'm working on creating a master class in crystals, and I have a section that relates to the chakras, the 12 chakra system. Interesting. Interesting. I don't think I have any familiarity with the 12 chakra system. I would be very curious. Is there literature on that, or is that where is that from? Is that something that you have discovered yourself, Robert? Or I'm curious. So interesting stuff when we look at our identity and how we become subject to it. We become subject to our beliefs about ourselves and about the world that we live in. And I've noticed in some of the session work that I've done with clients that people show up sometimes with a big issue that they are very attached to, very identified with, and have fear around letting go of that issue, because then they don't know who they are, or they're afraid that they won't know who they are. In fact, that's not the experience. After, on the other side of the session, who they are is freer, because they're not at the effect of whatever that thing was. But to imagine that we are our limitations, like, what happens if all my life I believe that I'm not enough, and then I'm able to go through a process that shifts my experience of beingness, so that I experience being enough, or more enough, you know, or less insecure, less negative, for instance. It's interesting that we define ourselves by these things. And so today's conversation is about looking at how we can free ourselves from the notions of our beingness that are limiting us. Robert says, well, there are many interpretations of the chakras. I've seen a few different works and teaching about the 12 chakra system, and I recently discovered one that talks about the 22 chakra system, which I'm not yet familiar with. Thank you, Robert. I wonder then how it's almost making me think, well, it is making me think of chakras as related to the meridian system, for instance, that there may be some correlation with acupuncture meridians, maybe with the expanded chakra system. That would be an interesting thing to look at. So again, we're talking about notions of reality, and when, I don't know if you have ever experienced a moment when your reality got shaken, where something happened that it just challenged your very notion of the way the world is, the way that things are. I've had a couple experiences in my life where I really felt unmoored, almost not unhinged, but really at sea, when something happened that shook my notion of how things were, and it threw me into a state of questioning everything. And it was so disruptive and terrifying in a way, because all of a sudden everything I thought I knew was kind of falling by the wayside. And it was very, very disorienting. And I'm wondering if this freedom from the ideas of who we are, freedom from the influences of our past, would that be tremendously disorienting, or would we be able to find a place of peace in that emptiness, so to speak? And I know, Irma, you've been wrestling with finding peace in the emptiness that is emerging, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing, and also disquieting at first. Rosalind says, Master Stephen Coe had guided meditations on Facebook that are about 30 minutes. He spends 20 minutes explaining different topics about what to let go. And then the last 10 to 15 minutes is a guided visualization to help energetically release these attachments. That's awesome, Rosalind. That's kind of a brilliant thing. I do... I think that that's a great process for using meditation or guided visualization, or self-hypnosis, even we could call it, where you get present to an issue that's going on in your body or your being, and then have a guided meditation to then release whatever that is. It sounds really, really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And Robert says, in my course, I'll talk about the system that includes the 7 main chakras, then the Earth Star chakra, Soul Star chakra, and 4 chakras above the Soul Star. Well, now you've given me some homework, Robert. I get to go check out this 12 chakra system. And Irma says, yes, my limbo, that for the place of emptiness. And so this place of emptiness, I think we can equate it with freedom and the emptiness of not having the identity that you've had as you shift out of an identity, for instance, of let's say you had an identity of victimhood. As you shift out of that notion of victimhood, perhaps there might arise this, well, okay, if I'm not a victim, who am I? What am I? You know, and there's this emptiness and a place of perhaps quiet and a a sense of unfamiliar peace. And that unfamiliarity can be really it can be very disquieting. So I as we expand into freedom, maybe it needs to be a gradual falling away. Hello, Elaine. Welcome, welcome. Great to have you here. Um, maybe the path to freedom is best served as a gradual opening of the hand to be able to release the attachment and identification with the ideas and beliefs. If we allow them to gradually fall away, then we can acclimate more easily and more ecologically for ourselves without the shock and the disruption of now I don't know who I am, where I am, what I am. I don't know what the nature of the world is anymore. That can be terrifying, and it can also be incredibly exhilarating and liberating. So Robert's saying that it's 12 plus 1 chakras if I count the Earth Star. Well, I'm gonna learn about this for sure. Very interesting. I think that it's I think about systems and our tendency to overcomplicate things. Not to say that it's not valid in some respect. I personally really appreciate simplicity. And I think um, our intentionality manages to have the really guide the effectiveness of so many systems. I think the systems help us to orient our thinking around things, and I'm just curious to see what happens. Like what I learn about these additional chakras and how it expands my understanding. I'm looking forward to it, and I wonder. There are some systems of healing that I'm familiar with that they're very systematic and they're very detailed. They're very involved, and for me, I just want simple. I I don't know, I keep it simple, right? That's kind of what works for me. Um, Irma says, gradually is what gets me. It feels like change would not come and my negative spiral can start again. So now what's happening, Irma, is you're, you're bringing yourself into fear. And rather than bringing yourself into fear, put your attention on trust, that it's perfect, that this is part of your process. You're not going back. You can't go back. You just have moments. And remember, there's this spiral of transformation. Okay. Just remember that it's spiraling upward. Okay. And the fear, don't feed the fear. That's the bully. So just remember to tell the bully to take a walk. So Elaine says, absolutely, moving beyond the mind and sitting in silence is a beautiful process, individually tailored but orchestrated perfectly to move into wholeness. A walk to remember who one is. For me, love. That's beautiful, Elaine. And one of my dear clients is learning is in a meditation certification program, and has shared that, and this is such a beautiful perspective, anything can be a meditation to bring us back to ourselves, to that place of empty fullness, if I can say that, or pregnant void, to bring us present. So the act of eating some portion of food can be a meditation if you're focusing your attention on that experience. The sensual experience of it is focused attention. A walk can be a meditation. Drinking water can be a meditation. We don't have to just sit in silence to try to and wrestle with the thoughts going through our heads, for example. So Rosalind says, I agree to have compassion and forgive myself for the process. Some beliefs we can change in 2 minutes, but some change occurs over a longer period of time. I agree. I think that our beliefs are often wired in ways that may be layered. That there may be a linchpin kind of belief that's anchoring a whole bunch of them. But oftentimes the ones that we're most alert to are the ones that are more superficial. And so we can shift those beliefs, and then there's some more, and we get to shift those, and then there's some more, etc. So Elaine says, the universe for me operates through simplicity, guiding me back to the stillness, the emptiness, the silence of my being. That's awesome. Elaine, it sounds like presencing. Good for you. Congratulations to be present, to be in that silence, because in that stillness and emptiness, that's where inspiration comes from. It emerges from that place of presence, and then there's a greater listening. So Robert says, yes, I agree that we tend to complicate things. That's my experience, is that things can potentially be a whole lot more simple than we make them. Suzanne says, I agree, you can't go back once the process is started. It's a marathon. You have to be patient and kind to yourself and trust your intuition. Yes, it is a process, and you don't get to go back. It doesn't mean that you don't go through darkness periodically. That's part of all of it. Again, it's the spiral. We're going back around and kind of revisiting old or long-standing issues, but we're revisiting them from a different place. So don't fear falling back, because You can't go back to the place that you were. Hi, Tammy. Welcome. It's great to have you here. Robert says it's good to have knowledge about things and then choose what works best for ourselves. So I love learning, and the thing the thing that I'm talking about is not rejecting learning in any way. What I'm talking about in terms of freedom is to use our learning, use our thoughts, use our ideas rather than having them use or own us. When we become uh, slaves to our beliefs, then that is absolutely not freedom. That's kind of the opposite of freedom, right? Elaine says, absolutely present, living in the now, for now, is all there really is. For all is truly well. Living in the now, that's the challenge, right? Because as we are in this moment, if we're really present to this moment, it's totally new. It's totally new and filled with wonder if we're really present, filled with awe. If we're in this moment carrying our past, we might not even be, or imagining our future, we might not at all be present to this experience, this moment. And Robert says, yes, it's true. It is true. For when we're present, there's a sense of awe and wonder and peace and stillness potentially. Um, yeah, I that's what I go back to is awe and wonder. And I think that that's such a magnificent state for me. That's such a joyful, enlivening experience. And I think I don't allow myself that enough. So thank you for the reminder here in our conversation. So I just want to say thank you all for, again, joining me in a great conversation, all your contributions, and it's uplifting and such a wonderful experience for me to be having these dialogues with you. It's really, really a gift. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It's Friday, so I wish you a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Um, Elaine says, truly present, living the unknown as it's unfolding in a joyful, playful journey. May we all have that, Elaine. May we be able to be living life through those moments. So, everybody, again, thank you. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. I go live every weekday morning on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page at 9 a.m. Eastern. And please check out the awesome programming on Enlightened World Network. And Robert says, and sometimes it's the knowledge that gives us freedom, especially in court, knowing their terminology. Yes. And on that note, so, Hope, I'm so glad you were here joining us. Well, enjoy your weekend, everyone. And I hope to see you again here soon. And let's create more expansive freedom for ourselves, liberating ourselves, and enjoy